Um, I've done press conferences from here before, and it's always been a problem with traffic noise, and I know that, but I had promised you that I would get back to you on a regular basis to just share with you where we are in our efforts on several items. One, with COVID-19, this pandemic we have. The other, the Hurricane Zeta update. And I also wanted to go ahead and share my thoughts about the shooting into my home. That's been asked a lot, and so I am prepared to make a statement about that as well. I want to bring to your attention something. The Alabama COVID-19 data and the surveillance dashboard that's maintained by the Alabama Department of Public Health, the Division of Infectious Disease and Outbreaks, shows the following trend. It shows that in Dallas County, on the 14th, we had 2 new cases. On the 15th, we had 9. On the 16th, we had 21. On the 17th, 23. And on the 18th, 30. This is a very disturbing trend, and we cannot continue to behave the way we are behaving, because we can ill afford this trend to continue. And so it clearly shows that we have a crisis, and to change this trend, we have to change our behavior. Therefore, by the authority that's invested in the office of mayor by proclamation, I will be issuing an order that shall apply within the city of Selma not later than Monday. I have been reaching out and collaborating with some of the other entities, the county, school system, and others, to review, and the city council to review my proposed proclamation, and we are preparing to move on that pretty swiftly. So sometime between now and Monday, we are going to do a couple of things. We're going to include all of the provisions of the state of Alabama Safer at Home order. In other words, the order that the governor already has in place, we are going to embrace that, and we are going to amend it. And as it has been amended, and I think the last amendment was November the 5th of 2020, we also want to reinforce mandatory wearing a mask, something I'm not doing right now because of this conversation, but everybody else around me is. But we're going to reinforce the wearing a mask while in public spaces, because COVID-19 is now considered to be airborne. We need to consider that. Also, we want to expand the order to immediately limit the number of people that can gather within our city for events. And then I am considering, have not made my decision yet on a curfew, but I will make a decision about that sometime between now and Monday. When this order is released, I ask and I'm encouraging the citizens and those who are visiting our community to voluntarily comply with the order. Because by doing so, we are actually saving lives. I also want to remind the public that while I was campaigning, I said that I was going to appoint a COVID-19 czar for the city of Selma, someone to actually pay close attention to the activities relating to COVID-19, coordinate with the city and other entities that are engaged and involved. And so on Monday, between now and Monday, I will also announce who that person will be that I am appointing to serve in that capacity. It will be either a volunteer capacity, and but one thing for certain, it will not cost the city any additional money for that person to serve in this capacity. The other thing I wanted to mention is the newly installed COVID-19 protocols for public spaces that we have. You will find Stephanie's here. Come here, Stephanie. Stephanie's here. That's far enough. That's close enough. Y'all zoom in on Stephanie there. Stephanie is our public buildings person, she is responsible for the access, control, maintenance of our public spaces and public buildings. And I had asked her to initiate the implementation of these protocols. So when you enter City Hall now, what you will find is a body scanner that's scanning your temperature, and you will find that that body scanner is providing technical information to the people on the other side of the scanner, so that we will be able to determine immediately whether you are showing any symptoms, i.e. your temperature is above 100 degrees. And so that is in place now. We do have, again, someone monitoring that in place, and we also have, thanks to Stephanie and her work, we have the 6 feet distancing markers on the floor, and we also are implementing additional protocols and standards for the employees and citizens as they enter and leave City Hall. So we wanted to make you aware. I want to thank Stephanie for her work in that area, and I think she's doing a great job, and we're going to continue to add to this protocol and strengthen it as we move through the process. The other thing I want to mention to you this morning in this update has to do with Hurricane Zeta. And again, we have representatives from our engineering group here. And I'm going to ask Meredith Hogg if she would just come up and just share an update on where we are with our hurricane relief and preparedness. And anything she misses, and Henry, I may want you to come and say something as well. Come on, Meredith.
I'm going to take my mask off. We have completed the RFPs, which is a request for proposals to solicit proposals from debris removal services. That's the people that are going to come in and remove all the debris off the city streets and the city right-of-ways, and they'll dispose of it. And then the debris monitoring service, which will monitor the debris removal services activity and do all the documenting and all that, so we can possibly hopefully get reimbursed by that.
Thank you. Henry, do you have anything you want to add on this? Okay, come on.
Be quick.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. I just wanted to give you all an update in regards to where we are regarding the Alabama Emergency Management Office and the process in which we're ultimately undertaking. We are currently in the process of getting them damage assessment reports so that this information can be further carried along in the process in regards to making sure that we are properly documenting all of our documentation regarding incidents that happen around Selma. Thank you.
It is our understanding that the state of Alabama still does not have the sign-off that it needs from Washington. And so we still are moving down this two-track process to get to where we need to do to get the cleanup done. And so basically what you heard in summary is that we are moving towards issuing an RFP to mega companies who can come in and get this work done within a very short period of time. The other thing is, I will share with you, is that the RFP responses, in fact the RFP will be released today. It will be released today. The responses are due by December the 2nd, 2 o'clock. That's when the responses are due in. Bids will be reviewed on December the 4th. By December the 4th, bid award will be immediately upon completing the review and begin work within 24 hours of the notice to proceed. And so we really are expediting this process. Wanted the citizens to know that we are moving as swiftly as we can to get this work done, and to get it done in a fashion that we can get reimbursed for most of the cost of getting it done. That's key. Reimbursement. We have to be able to document everything that we do. Unfortunately, there have been some things done prior that really are causing some conflict within government. We're going to work through that. There were some folks that were out doing work without the proper authorization, and now they feel, and some members of the council feel that they must be paid for what they were doing, but I remind the citizens that there were scores of people who were volunteering, doing the work at the time, and that when I became mayor, we had no knowledge of any existing contracts. The city attorney had no knowledge of any existing contracts. And so we really don't understand that yet, but we are working on it, and I am simply making that statement as a part of full disclosure. Finally, I want to acknowledge Chief Fulford here, and I indicated that I would go ahead and make a statement specifically about the shooting into Cynthia's and my personal home. Now, I've hesitated about this. I've been really thoughtful and prayerful over it because, and I will tell you that I don't take this lightly, but let me just, I'm going to stick to the script on this statement. I'm not going to impromptu this one, but I want you to just hear what I have to say about it. Cynthia and I have lived in the same place since 1994. We've not moved, nor do we have another home anywhere else. We have endured the decline in our city, especially on the east side of town. We hear the same gunshots literally every night that everyone else hears. We have not taken flight. We have remained. We have never stopped fighting for a safe and peaceful community for all citizens. We have experienced shots fired into our home before when I was mayor. That time, I did not report it and I said nothing. There were citizens who boldly lied about me installing bulletproof glass at City Hall when bullet holes were in the glass that they were speaking of. However, this time, I am taking a different approach. This time, I am asking Chief Fulford to do a full and thorough investigation into the incident. But more importantly, I am asking the chief to include in his proposed budget for this year that will come to me a full bank of technology and resources that can be used citywide to help prevent this from happening to anyone and to help solve these type crimes citywide. Then I will be asking the city council and the citizens to fund the public safety measures proposed by Chief Fulford. I recognize that this is not a Selma problem alone. This is happening in many cities in this country. I also recognize that many cities do not have this type crime occurring, and we need to find out what they are doing differently and adopt their best practices in dealing with this insanity. There will be more to come about this as we move forward. But I want the citizens to know that we're taking this very, very seriously. Not only what happened to me personally, to my wife personally, but what is happening to many, many citizens in our community. This insanity has to stop. And I'm asking the chief to provide us with a solution that will include both technology and human resources necessary to fight this type crime in our community. Those are my comments for today. And now I will ask that you entertain any questions that you may have. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But this is what I do know. The chief reported He has already reported and made public the caliber of the weapon that was used. It was a .40 caliber pistol. What happened in my home, it went through the wall, not through a window. It went through a plastered wall and not sheetrock. It ricocheted off of a plaster wall and then entered a book that was on my bookshelf. And by the way, that book was a study of the Acts of the Apostles. According to, this is my conclusion. This is not something the chief has said to me, but this is my conclusion. My conclusion is, and I'm no ballistics expert, but I do have a gun and I know what guns can do. In order for that projectile to do what it did from a pistol, it could not have been fired from a long distance. That's one thing I do know. That's one thing I believe. Let me correct that. That's one thing I believe. The other thing I believe is if it was fired from a short distance, the chances are great that it was intentional. Yes, sir.
Is there not already a curfew and laws in place for the COVID-19 from the Melton administration?
As far as I know, those measures were put in place, but they have not been enforced. And so what I will be doing in this proclamation is reinforcing them, restating them as my position as mayor. I will be proclaiming them as my position as mayor and asking the chief to enforce these codes.
Is the manpower issue going to present any new challenges, not just for the COVID-19, but even with this random shooting, with the police force?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It has been and it still is. But we do have friends in law enforcement agencies across this state, the state level and at the federal level. And we're not shy about engaging them when we need to.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, if you describe the technology that you want the chief to submit to you, and how would that technology prevent what happened?
Well, I'm going to defer that until I get the proposal from the chief, because there's a lot of great technology out there, and you use the term in your question, prevent, and I understand your question, and so I suspect that there are some items out there that can reduce or prevent, and there are some things out there that can help us identify who did when it happened. And so I'm looking forward to a comprehensive solution being proposed.
What is the latest in the investigation?
What is what?
What is the latest in the investigation in terms of suspects?
See, he asked what is the latest of the investigation.
Right now, what we did do, we sent the projectile off, and we are waiting on the results from it. So right now, until we get that, the results from that, we can go from there.
Have you, since you've been chief, has the random shooting been an issue all along in other neighborhoods throughout Selma that you know of?
Well, when I became chief in January, right after that, the pandemic hit, and everyone was at home, had to be at home for a while, and then shortly after that, when it kind of slacked up and we kind of relaxed, that's when the shooting started picking up. So yes, sir, that has been all over the city.
Now I know there's technology, I'm told, that they're using in Montgomery that can detect or predict, when a shot is going to take place. How much does visibility with patrolling have to do with that being a deterrent against random shooting?
Well, what I have planned, and like the mayor stated, we have partners like the sheriff department, partners on the federal side that we have reached out to, and they're going to be out patrolling as well as we are.
And as we're coming up on these holidays, we're wearing masks now, Is that going to be an issue with? I mean, what if somebody decides they want to try and rob somebody, and they can walk into a retail operation or somewhere with a mask on? Have you guys thought about any of that?
Well, during the holidays, as we normally do, we will have extra patrol out, and you will see extra officers out in these local businesses.
So when you start enforcing a person not wearing a mask, and how are you going to tell? Is there a way to tell whether or not a person's intention, is to rob a store, for instance, or some unsuspecting person? Is there a way to prevent that?
No, not right off.
Mayor, were you and your wife at home at the time?
We were not home, but this is the message that I'm trying to convey. This happened to us, but this is not about us. This is about what's happening in our community, and it has to stop. Whatever we need to do, whatever resources we need to apply to this problem, we, the community, must address this together. This is not something that we can expect the police department to do by itself. This is not something that the mayor can accomplish by himself. The council cannot accomplish it by itself. We must do this together. Citizens are going to have to identify someone in law enforcement or in this administration that they can trust to share information about what is going on illegal in our community. All of these illegal guns, all of this illegal shooting, it must be targeted. It must be eradicated. We cannot continue to live this way.
There's no rhyme or reason why this is happening?
Well, I can't say that. I suspect there are rhymes and reasons, but I don't know all of them. I doubt very seriously if any of us know all of them. But whatever the rhyme and whatever the reason, it needs to stop.
Mr. Mayor, I'm a landlord that's self-declared disaster. Here he is.
Disaster declaration was issued by the governor of the state of Alabama. And when that happened, Selma falls under that declaration. It is not necessary for Selma to do an additional declaration. We are under that one. And if we did one, it would just be a formality. It wouldn't carry any additional weight. The primary reason for establishing a declaration of disaster is to line yourself up and your actions up so that the community can be refunded the expenses that we incurred during the cleanup process. And so we are under a declaration of disaster. However, as we know right now, unless somebody can tell me different, the state's declaration has not been signed in Washington. That creates a problem. That not just for Selma, but for everyone from the coast, Mobile, all the way up, who's victims of this. That means that local communities like Selma, we know we gotta clean this up. And we are going to clean it up. But we run the risk of doing so now and not getting the reimbursement. And we're not talking small money. It could approach $1 million. And so this is a lot of activity. What we did not want, hold on a second, because I think this is a very important question. What we do not want and what we did not want are people doing this work, not fully understanding the process necessary to get the reimbursements, and then coming to Selma and saying, we owe you. That's a problem. And so we need to manage this process so that the city will be eligible to get the reimbursements that are due to us from the federal government through the state of Alabama.
Now, Sally, last week we got a communication that said that the White House had signed off on Hurricane Sally, not Hurricane Zeta. So I'm assuming that these are two separate situations. Do you have any kind of a timeline or projection as to how long it takes for the federal government to sign off on it? And what's the difference once they sign off on it, even though the governor's already done a declaration?
Well, there is no timeline. And that's set in Washington. That's between the state and the federal government. But what we do have is we know we're going to have to pay for it. We're going to have to pay for it in advance. The question is, are we doing it the right way so that when it is signed off on, we are eligible for reimbursement? That's the key.
What about the money that this previous city council, you know, I remember there was $1 million, I think, was set aside for COVID-19, and I understand a substantial amount of that was not spent. Is there any kind of do we have any kind of a status on where we are with that, and will we spend the money?
It is my understanding that there's, what I heard last night in the work session, I have not seen the report, was that there's about $500,000 remaining in that fund. If you recall, the city issued 2 stimulus checks to, I believe, all employees, full-time employees, am I correct? One in last fiscal year and one in this fiscal year. Is that how that was done? Y'all help me out. I wasn't here. Am I right? Okay. And so that means that based on the amount of those stimulus checks that were issued, only that portion that applied to public safety could be reimbursed by the CARES money. So that means that a significant percentage of that money came out of the general fund. And so the impact of that right at this point is uncertain and unknown to me. We still do not have a good handle on it.
You got until the end of the year to spend the $500,000?
That's what I have been told. Officially, it's end of the year, but I also heard that there may be an extension coming, but I have not seen anything official on that. What is what?
What the latest St. James Hotel?
That's interesting. My next meeting, I'll find out. Today. Yeah, I plan to meet with them today. Thank you.